The 2023 Africa Cup of Nations is less than 3 weeks away, and the countdown continues tonight. African teams have already declared their provisional teams, giving football analysts and fans an early look at their squad's depth and selection. Egypt will be heading to Cote d'Ivoire with high expectations after finishing as runners-up in 2021. Here is CGTN's Abdallah ElSaid with more.
Coach Rui Vitoria has named his preliminary squad for the 2023 AFCON. With a 55 players list, no one should have left behind. Yet the Portuguese coach managed to surprise many with his selection.
There are many question marks about Vitoria's selection. He previously said that he won't have players without sufficient playing times in the club. Yet, he included Fatou and Sobi. The club Zamalek does not seem to have an immediate plan for them, as they are not in good shape. But this is AFCON. An accurate evaluation will be made when he settles on the final squad to Cote d'Ivoire.
Coach Vitoria also included Egypt's veteran midfielder Abdallah ElSaid. The 38-year-old Pyramids FC player had announced his retirement from the national duties almost 2 years ago.
The inclusion of Abdallah ElSaid was most surprising. It's a big deal because Abdallah had retired. Considering his age and that he's not been playing regularly, this could be an honorary decision. Still, Abdallah is a great name, and if he joins the final list, he'll definitely give the team a boost with his experience.
Despite his goal-scoring spree with English club Liverpool, some Egyptian fans don't want a big role for talisman Mo Salah.
There are many good international players and many strong local players in the team. We shouldn't put full reliance on Mo Salah. All the teams know our usual tactics. We must develop that. Also, Salah doesn't play as well as he does in Europe. He fears injuries. So let's give more room to the others. We should reach the final this year.
In Cote d'Ivoire, Egypt will be playing in Group B against Ghana, Mozambique and Cape Verde. Advancing to the knockouts shouldn't be a challenge for the Pharaohs. However, they will be under immense fan pressure this time.
After losing the final to Senegal in the 2021 AFCON edition, nothing much will impress football fans here unless the Pharaohs win the title. The team and millions here will be eyeing to extend their continental 7 times AFCON titles to 8 trophies in Cote d'Ivoire. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
All right, we're right back with our analyst, David Kwalimwa, and of course, Darren K. Une. Thank you for standing by. Some more questions. Darren, let's start with you. Host Cote d'Ivoire will face Guinea-Bissau in the opening match on January the 13th in Abidjan. Cote d'Ivoire has been a soccer powerhouse on the continent, producing the likes of former Chelsea striker Didier Drogba and ex-Manchester City midfielder Yaya Toure in the past. Who do you think will get out of Group A, the only one with teams from West Africa?
Well, it's quite an interesting group, but of course, normally the gods of football back the hosts, and it's usually very, very rare for a host not to make it out of the group stage, and perhaps it's reminiscent of what happened to South Africa when they hosted the 2010 FIFA World Cup and were not able to make it out of the group stages. But in the yesteryears and yester tournaments, so particularly the AFCON, usually the host at least makes it last quite a mile in their own tournament, because it inevitably plays an impact on the number of people that make it to the different stadiums for the games. When the host country is out quite early, normally the temperatures are quite low in the advanced stages of the tournament. But ideally, you'd think Ivory Coast, first of all, with the history that they've got, they stand a chance in that particular group. You think that the opening game, they would love to get 3 points, because the championship has been expanded to 24 teams, unlike before the 2017 edition and before, when the tournament was being played with 16 teams. Ideally, a team would search for at least 4 points to make it out of the group. But now, because the championship has been expanded to 24 teams, even 3 points can get you out of the group if you have a healthy goal difference. But I think for Ivory Coast, that will not be the those won't be the permutations in their own group. I think they stand a chance, them and Nigeria, to compete for the top spot. But ideally, what would matter would be what happens in the other two games that they've got in that group. And I feel even if it's all a West African affair, I think Ivory Coast surely stands a chance. And when you look at some of the things that their own countrymen are doing across Europe, you feel they surely can blend in together, just like they did to win their 2015 edition, which was their second title after winning in 1992 in Senegal.
All right, in summary, Darren, you say the gods of football will back the hosts. All right, let's get David into this conversation now as well. David, 24 countries will battle it out in 52 matches played across 5 cities. Has the new expanded competition now offered some fair representation of the 54 countries in Africa? How do you see it?
Yes, it has, of course, statistically and as well in terms of the teams that have qualified that never used to quite have a chance of a qualification, because 26 team football tournament in Africa is almost half of the countries in Africa, as you correctly put it, 54 countries. So 26 teams representing 54 countries is more or less half the size, as I said earlier. But then again, if you look at it, if you go and scan through the teams that have qualified in the past 2 editions, since the tournament was expanded from 16 teams to 24, you come up with the teams that quite never had a chance of competing at this stage of the tournament, now gracing the tournament, sometimes a little bit more frequently. Tanzania, Kenya's next door neighbors, come into mind, of course, having qualified for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations that was played in Egypt. Didn't get out of the group then, but now they're going back again, having qualified under former Kenyan coach Adel Amruche. Kenya as well did qualify for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, back then managed by Frenchman Sebastien Minye. Before that, it had taken almost 14 years for Kenya to play at the continental showpiece. You just mentioned Guinea-Bissau, another traditional minor in African football, now gracing this tournament. Then you have the likes of Zimbabwe and Sudan having a bite of the cherry. So yes, a lot of inclusivity in the tournament, a lot of African football fans are getting to associate themselves with their own team, so to speak, at this tournament. And as we get closer to the 2023 edition as well, you might be able to experience new teams and newer names and newer stars, newer African stars coming to the party.
All right, Darren, pundits have already said that AFCON 2024 title will be contested by teams from North Africa and West Africa, as both account for 21 of the 33 tournament wins and 8 of the last 10. To that you say what? Do you see this playing out in Cote d'Ivoire?
If you're starting a tournament that has 24 teams and 2 of the groups have all West African teams, in terms of numbers, it means the probability is quite high for West Africa, to still have a say at this particular championship. And of course, if you roll back, the last country to win the Africa Cup of Nations that hasn't been either from the north or west has been Zambia back at the 2012 edition, which is about 11 years ago. But if you roll back, just at the start of last year at the AFCON in Cameroon, the final 4 teams had only one North African country, a Central African country in Cameroon that finished 3rd because they were the hosts, and then 2 West African teams, Senegal, who went on to win, and then Burkina Faso, who came 4th in that particular championship. You clearly see that the West Africans have dominated this particular tournament, especially over the past few years. But it stems from the number of teams, one, that they are able to qualify, but inevitably the level of football structures they've got. I feel they have a comparative advantage, even at club football level, more than several other teams, especially in Central, South and East of the continent.